Well, hello there, everyone. I hope you are doing well. I'm coming to you with a little bit of a somber topic this evening. You know how passionate I have been about the civil rights violations that have been foisted upon us by the state meaning all levels of government during this pandemic, that no crisis is ever an excuse to take away our inalienable rights, our inalienable civil rights. And I was at the Libertarian Party of Colorado's board meeting the other day, and there was a business owner that had such a compelling testimony. I extracted out his testimony and have permission to share it with you now. I ask that you please listen, but it will break your heart. In my show notes are some ways that you can help. The man's name is Chase Boner, and he is the owner of Parrots Bar. Might be Parrots Restaurant and Bar. And there will be links down in the show notes where you can help him if you're so moved to. There will also be a link where there is a combined fund for a bunch of Colorado restaurant owners that are banding together, perhaps to see if they can challenge the state. But in any way, if you can, listen to his story, and please help if you can. And if the only thing you can do is share this video to raise awareness of the forgotten victims, I would truly appreciate it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Chase Bonner. I own Parrot Sports Grill in Firestone, Colorado. I probably will not use up all of my 10 minutes, but the way I would like to begin is by giving you guys a little bit of a rundown on our situation, and then possibly allow some question and answer just in case you guys have any. So to begin, I've owned this restaurant now for about 2.5 years. We bought it in Firestone. It's been around for probably closer to 15. And during that time, the first year that we were involved was actually the most lucrative year the business has ever seen, by a margin of about 200,000 or so. So it was a pretty good year for us. We were, of course, right on track with that growth so far through, of course, January and February. And then, well, March came along and things changed for us a little bit. So when Polis originally announced some of his guidelines, we elected to just kind of fall in line. The way that it was originally kind of explained was, we'll close down for a month, maybe two, and this will blow over and we'll be able to reopen and Colorado economy will remain strong. We'll continue forward as though this were behind us. And I think, of course, we all know that the reality of that situation now is very, very different. We ended up staying closed from late February until almost June. That we decided to go ahead and stay closed because for us, it was so much more cost effective to have our facilities shut down and non-functional to save the revenue that we could, cutting down on our utility bills, cutting down on our orders, cutting down on things like that. While we would only be able to offer delivery services, et cetera, we were seeing approximately 5% of our typical revenue. So for us, it simply did not make sense to continue to open or to even try to reopen until people were allowed to dine in, even under limited circumstances. We got to about June and some of the circumstances had started to change. We had our color wheel and everything was starting to look like we had a really firm, very stable plan in place. So we reopened in June. We brought back the overwhelming majority of our staff. We did lose a few to natural attrition that I must say we've been unable to replace, even in spite of pretty desperate need. But coming back was a little bit of an adventure all on its own, having to space our tables out 8 to 10 feet apart, severely limited the number of dine-in customers we were able to. But to take that even further, though we had the ability to seat more than the 50 limit, we had to cap that at 50 as well. So we did choose to go ahead and follow those orders and to be fairly strict in the protocol. And what we found pretty quickly was the fact that we were still only going to be making around 20% of our revenue. Now, we're in a unique position. My background is actually commercial financial development for large organizations and entities. So we had already kind of built our operations around a low cost, high profit, high margin. So we were able to continue to be able to pay the bills, to be able to pay the employees. Unfortunately, we weren't able to pay any of the owners, including myself. Simply, there just wasn't enough money. We chose to prioritize our employees throughout pretty much this entire process. And by doing so, we have been able to stay alive. Now, that brings us to roughly current. As I'm sure most of you are aware, I want to say it was I'm going to say right about 3 weeks ago now, Polis announced that he would be moving the wheel to red for Weld County and for several other counties at that same time. Now, throughout this period, just in case you guys are not familiar with Weld County, we're if we are not the largest, we're pretty close to the largest county in the state. And we encompass Fort Collins, we encompass Greeley, we encompass Firestone, Frederick area. It's a pretty large span north and south on I-25, and then continues out east as well. So Weld County, from the very beginning, has elected to take Governor Polis's orders more as what they are. This is an emergency situation. This is what we're advising. This is what we believe that needs to be followed. But at the end of the day, Weld County believed it was ultimately up to the people to make their own choices with regard to their own freedoms. They were not enforcing the governor's orders. They did not ask us to operate at 50%. We chose to. And unfortunately, that damaged our business. You know, you go 4 months with no revenue and then come back to only 20% revenue. It starts to get real tight real quickly. At that point, moving to red, Polis had said, hey, guys, you know, we're going to let the counties manage this. CDPHE is not able to manage the entire state. So we're asking all the counties to step up and manage this according to how they see fit. Weld County, of course, declined. They made the statement that, again, this is a violation of personal freedoms, and we believe that people have the right to make their own choices. So the message that we were receiving both from our locality as well as our county was that we should be staying open. We were encouraged, and that's an exact quote from both our Weld County commissioners as well as our mayor in Firestone. We've spoken to all the sheriffs. We did our best to do our due diligence, and we also did our best to maintain following the yellow's restrictions. Now, this is where that story turns and gets very, very interesting. Back in April, Governor Polis decided that he was going to put in place an order allowing Colorado Liquor Enforcement Division, which is a subsidiary of the Department of Revenue, to enforce these orders that were public health orders. Now, what's interesting about this is not Colorado Public Health Department enforcing these orders. This is not a county enforcing its guidelines. This is an external, unrelated third party that was drafted by the governor of the state of Colorado to come in and shut restaurants down by force should it be required. Now, we were very first contacted roughly 3 or 4 days after Polis put this order in effect and told, hey, we've sent somebody by on a quick drive-by. We've noticed you're out of compliance. Unfortunately, if you don't come into compliance, we will come back and we will put you underneath a suspension. Now, for those of you who don't know, in the bar and restaurant industry, alcohol typically accounts for around 60, if not 70% of our revenue. So go ahead and take that into account with regards to that 20% that we were earning. You can essentially go ahead and deduct 70% of that 20%, if that makes any sense. And so for us, this was been an absolutely devastating blow. So we decided that we would close down for a few days and take some time to evaluate and speak with some of our leadership, both at the state level, the county level, the city level, to get some good direction on how to move forward. The direction we received was pretty much the same. We encourage you to stay open. Your business can't survive. And to be very, very blunt, that is the truth. When this order came into effect, had we decided to follow it, we would have been insolvent before the order ended. There would have been no business. The last 10 years of my life working and saving every penny to purchase a business would have simply evaporated in smoke. But where that gets even more interesting is that my home is leveraged against that business. So to lose the business means I lose my personal home. I have employees that have just had their first child, that there are no cook jobs. There are no restaurant jobs. He cannot just simply go and find another position for which to feed his family. His significant other it was a rough pregnancy for her. She is not physically able to go to work, and I think all of us could agree that she shouldn't have to. But the position that I was put in by the Department of Liquor was to choose to stay closed and lose everything and cost my employees their jobs, their salaries, their revenue, many of them their homes, many of them their vehicles. many of them the ability to purchase groceries. That's something that I, as a business owner, just couldn't allow. I believe that as an owner, we have a commitment to our employees to make sure that we provide for them through thick and thin. They agree to come and to work and to provide excellent service for me. I owe them that in return. So at the end of about 4 days, we elected to go ahead and reopen in order to give our employees a chance, to give us a chance to find a way to survive. So at that point, we opened and we stayed open for about a week before we heard from Department of Revenue again. Supposedly, they sent someone into our facilities despite no trespassing signs, which, to be very, very honest, we did not expect to work. But they did come in, and of course, then they left and called us about an hour later to let us know they'd noticed we were still violation and to ask whether or not we wanted to come in line. We chose not to answer that question, I think, for obvious reasons. The following morning, about 3 minutes after my doors were opened by one of my head bartenders and our head chef, Liquor Enforcement Division stopped by. When they stopped by, they went ahead and walked right in, walked up to our bartender and asked her who was in charge that day. She informed him it was our head chef. They walked into our kitchen, handed our head chef a stack of paperwork and 2 signs that we needed to post letting the public know that we had received a suspension. After a few what I would call choice words that I would hesitate to repeat here, our head chef escorted them from our restaurant and sent them on their way, letting him know he would contact me. On that day, our liquor license was suspended. And from what we've been told, we can expect that suspension to either be extended, to be levied fines, and possibly to experience me going to jail for up to a year for violation of a public health order. Again, being enforced by a department that has absolutely nothing to do with the Colorado Department of Public Health and has absolutely nothing to do with the county that Polis put in charge of enforcement. Our situation, thankfully, for those few days and standing up, we were able to receive more business than I've seen us have in this entire year. And it did put us in a position where we may be able to survive. But I think we all know that Polis has a bad habit of extending these orders. And that's what we're expecting. If this order is extended through the end of January, that'll be the end. And unless I'm willing to go to jail for a year, pay fines of up to $10,000, possibly have my employees arrested, possibly have my employees charged with misdemeanors, we have no way forward. The government has all but refused to work with us. As you guys know, the federal government at the moment is at a stalemate with regards to its relief for small business owners. There's nothing left out there for us to go and seek help. So the path that I've chosen to kind of follow in response to that has been a little bit more of the political one. Looking to organize sit downs with our governor to have the opportunity to express possible options. The primary one that I'm suggesting is, if you guys are familiar with the plastic that painters use to cover your home when they're painting, it's very possible for us to order several rolls of that and actually suspend it from the ceiling all the way down to the floor, thereby creating cubicles that are transparent. We have the ability to put filters over holes so that if you want to be able to talk between tables, you're able to without any risk. We have the ability to provide ways to sanitize those spaces after each and every visit to make sure that there's no risk of spread, and this option has never even been considered. There are several more that I've been working with some of our legislators on, and unfortunately, we're having almost no traction with that. We haven't taken it to the federal level yet, but to be perfectly honest with all of you, I'm not even sure how to begin that process. To say this has been an incredible challenge would be putting it very, very, very mildly. I'm currently working with somewhere in the neighborhood of about 250 businesses, with more reaching out to join up every day in pursuing legal action against the state, not only for the damages that they've caused, but to explore the legality of these orders, to explore the legality of liquor enforcement enforcing public health orders. And at this point, I'm sure, as you all know, once you file a lawsuit, it's sit back and wait, and then hurry up and wait. And our expectation is that this suit will provide us no relief before it is far too late. My hope is that in communicating with you guys, we'll be able to find some ideas, some ways to move forward. At this point, I'm literally willing to get on my knees and beg for help if that's what it comes down to. And I can show you at least 100 restaurants that are in the same position.